Oh, and welcome to the Anglo Jers podcast with me, your host, Owen. Guys, if you just found the Anglo Jers podcast, if you are a Rangers fan and you love the club, like I love the club, then hit that sub, ring that notification bell, guys. Thank you for all those who've subbed recently, picking up a few subs. That's fantastic. Some great comments as well. Although I do have to delete an awful lot of Celtic idiots off their comments. It's really sad that that's the only thing they've got to do in their life is to trawl through the internet and look for Rangers channels to comment on, isn't it? Really sad indeed. I suppose they are a bunch of saddos though. But there we go, guys. There we go. Anyway, this is the sort of news update from all things that have been going on over the club as we go towards Saturday into the game on Saturday against Kilmarnock. The boys are back in action against Kilmarnock. Be good to get back into action, good to get a game, have a game to talk about, to start to put behind us, obviously, the disappointment of last Sunday. So there's been a few things, obviously, this week that have come from the club, from Ibrox, as regards certain players. Certain players have made comments. Manager's been talking as well about contract offers to free agents. And also the fact that they're obviously about some transfer targets as well. But where do we start? Let's start with John Lundstram. John Lundstram obviously was talking about ahead of the game. He was given media availability to the press, and he talked about obviously the fact that in his this was his words. He said that it was time to make up for the defeat against Celtic on Sunday. Well, John, if you think beating Kilmarnock makes up for the defeat to Celtic on Sunday in a cup final, you are sadly mistaken. I think that's got to go down as a pretty stupid comment, in my opinion. Lundstram, who had a very poor game, looked like he was towing a tractor for the entire game, and has, I think, not been that great this season at all, and hasn't really been fit either, and has really struggled to find some of the highs of the past that he's had. But for him to say, that, and I quote, that we make up for to make up for losing at the weekend by beating Kilmarnock. Well, guys, it's not even on the same level, really. It's number one. It's Celtic. It's the old firm. It's the big rivalry, and how he thinks that beating a team like Kilmarnock, nothing against Kilmarnock and their supporters and their players, but it's not even on the same level. And also the fact it was a cup final, and this is a fairly meaningless league game, given the fact that we obviously are so far behind Celtic at this point. So I think John Lundstram really needs to think before he speaks at times, and think about some of the comments that he makes. That is a really stupid comment, in my opinion. I'd love to get your opinion on that. Please drop me a comment below and let me know what you think of Lundstram's pretty stupid comment. Also, news yesterday that James Sands will return to his parent club. It was apparently a discussion between himself and the manager, Michael Beale. Sands obviously has struggled for playing time since he came to Rangers. He's been playing in defence. He's been obviously a midfielder. It was agreed that he would stay at the club ahead of the weekend game, because the fact that Goldson and Davis were the only fit centre-backs for the cup final. But, due to the fact that he's obviously had a lack of playing time, mainly brought about the fact that, he actually didn't really sort of cope, I don't think, with Scottish football, with the demands of Scottish football. He's been allowed to leave and return to his parent club. And, listening to certain other podcasts like Heart in Hand and Rangers Rabble and Jersnet and the Gallant Few and the Club at 22, don't think that will be... Sands is not someone who I don't think is going to be missed by supporters now that he has been allowed to return to his parent club. So, thank you for what you did for the club, James. What little you did, wish you all the best in your career. But I think it's the right decision for both James Sands and for Rangers to allow him to return to his parent club in MLS. Michael Beale obviously also talked about the out-of-contract players and he talked about the fact that no offers have yet been made to those players, the likes of Ryan Jack, the likes of Alfredo Morelos, the likes of Ryan Kent, for example, who were all out of contract in the summer. He said that he didn't want to rush into it because he wanted to sort of get judgments on these players. He said, that's something he's continuing to do. There was some that he was unsure of, some that obviously he has got experience of, from the fact that when he was here on Stephen Gerrard's backroom staff. But he think, he wants to make a judgment on where they fit into his plans going forward, where they fit into the team, in the future. And I respect what he's got to say on that. The fact that I think, there's a number of those players that perhaps haven't lived up to expectations, that have perhaps been tagged as well as been serial losers. fact that Alfie is not really looking very fit at this moment in time, and the fact that he is obviously the highest paid player at the club, and you're going to have to continue to pay him as such, or are you going to be able to get him on a bargain deal? Is that worth it? Can they find someone as good or if not better than him? That's obviously something the club's got to look at, and if they want to free up money to go and attract new players, is the fact that the likes of Morelos, for instance, who's going to be on good wages, Kent, who's going to be on good wages, is allowing them to leave, going to enable us to free up that money to go and compete for those top other players that they want to bring into the club. Obviously, something that is down to the manager and the board to discuss. But an interesting discussion there. Ryan Jack, there's been rumours that he is likely to leave in the summer, that he doesn't want a new contract and he may move on. That is a strong rumour that is going about at this moment in time. Obviously, it'd be sad to think to lose Ryan, but obviously he has missed a fair number of games with injury this season. In terms of summer targets, Beale did drop a hint that he has identified a number of targets that he wants the club to go after in the summer and try and bring into the club, that he has his own players. And I think this is going to be the make or break time for Michael Beale, isn't it? To get him to make his own team in his own image. He has been quoted as saying he is just managing the team through to the end of the season, and that once he can get a transfer window, a proper summer transfer window where he can go and buy the players he wants, as he did with Raskin and Cantwell in the January transfer window, that maybe we will see a different Rangers come next season. So that's obviously something we need to keep an eye on. Final thing, Mark Hateley has been talking about the defeat to Celtic and talking about how disappointing it was. Obviously, Mark Hateley, club legend, ex-Ranger. He also talked about the fact that, the board, Stephen Gerrard's departure perhaps signals that wider thing about the board, and have the board got the ambition and the money to match the ambition of the fans and the direction this club needs to go into? And do the board need to perhaps think about handing it over, or finding someone who they can hand it over to who can take this club on? Have the board got the finances in place and the ambition to really push this club on to compete with Celtic? You look at that team that started on Sunday, and the majority of that team that started on Sunday were the same as played in the 2019 Cup final, whereas Celtic, I think it was only Callum McGregor who was in that final. They've had a huge changeover in players, and look at the success that it's led to them having. They lost that final, they rebuilt. Look how successful they are now. Is that something Rangers need to look at? Do they need to go for a big overturn in numbers of players and move on from a large number of players who've kind of been tagged with this serial loser tag since the 2021 55 title? Is that going to be something that the club need to do? And I think that is something a lot of supporters have already started to discuss. Obviously, as a fan, we want the club to be successful. We want the club to move forward. We want it to be on in a place where it can compete with Celtic and regularly beat Celtic and be a club that wins SPL titles, wins Scottish Cups, wins Viaplay League Cup finals, wins the treble, like Celtic have done, and the fact that, yes, this club is only technically 11, 12 years old, but it's it's come a great distance since the dark days of liquidation. But it's still a club that needs, has a proud history and needs to come back and needs to compete, isn't it? And I think that is a big question. Has the board got the finances and the ambition to enable us to do that? Certainly love to hear your comments below. Guys, remember to hit that sub, ring that notification bell, and come and join the Anglo Jers podcast to stay up to date with all the latest news, views, gossip, and rumours coming out of Glasgow Rangers. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll speak to you again very soon here on the Anglo Jers podcast.